The next panel is James Vasile from Software Freedom Law Center, Jehangir Khattak, New York County Media Alliance, Lowell Peterson, the Writers Guild of America, East AFL-CIO, Spencer Brown from Eyebeam, and Emma Lloyd, if she's also here, from Eyebeam.
Good afternoon, Madam Chairman. Lowell Peterson, I'm the Executive Director of the Writers Guild of America East. Appreciate the opportunity to speak in support of Resolution 712A. Let me tell you a little bit about who we are. We are the folks who shut down Hollywood about a year and a half ago. We write the comedy, variety, and late night. We write the big screen movies. We write episodic TV, sitcoms, public television, Nova, Sesame Street, Frontline. We write news for ABC, CBS, a little bit of Fox, and radio. And increasingly, we write for digital media. And the reason we shut down Hollywood was this. Writers have to participate in the digital world, and that's why we support the concept of net neutrality and support this resolution. What the Internet in particular does is eliminate the barrier between the creator and the audience. We know what it's like to work for big studios. That's where most of the work, and big networks, that's where most of the work is. We know what it's like to have somebody else decide what gets produced and what gets aired. And our members increasingly like not doing that, going directly to the audience with inspirational stories and funny bits and news items that wouldn't run on network TV is very important to our members who are committed to the life of creating these stories and getting them heard. Our concern is that without net neutrality, what will happen in the digital world is similar to what is currently happening in the, for lack of a better word, analog world, which is that there are a handful of majors that control access. We think that would be a squandering of a major opportunity. What digital technology offers, what the Internet offers, is something very different from that. Nobody knows what the business models will be. Nobody knows exactly how it will be monetized. But we do know what will happen if we allow large, powerful institutions, ISPs, studios, etc., to control the flow of information. And it is not good for creators. It is not good for writers. I think the issue of theft is one that is very important to our members as well, and we've heard a lot of people talk about it. There is nothing at all inconsistent about supporting net neutrality and opposing theft. I'm against car theft. I don't think that we're proposing to limit the number of car dealerships as a way to eliminate car theft. There are technologies, there are regulations that can take place that do not involve handing control of the Internet over to a handful of corporate interests that will protect our members against theft. And we look forward to working with folks on that. We think, though, that equating net neutrality with support for piracy is simply a non sequitur. I have a lot more to say, but the hour is late.
That was fabulous. Thank you very much. Next.
Hi, my name is Emma Lloyd, and I'm the Director of Technology at Eyebeam, and I'd like to thank you for inviting Eyebeam here today. Spencer Brown is actually a student resident at Eyebeam, and he actually wrote a testimony. He wanted to speak, but unfortunately had to leave. So I'd actually like to read his testimony for him. So my name is Spencer Brown, and I've been born and raised in Manhattan. I'm 16 and go to Bard High School, early college. I'm also a student resident at Eyebeam, a nonprofit art and technology center dedicated to exposing audiences to new technology and media arts, and demonstrating new media as a significant genre of cultural production, encouraging collaboration and inviting the public to share in a spirit of openness, open source, open content, and open distribution. As a way of life, I was born in '93, and almost all of my cognitive life has existed with the Internet. It has defined my habits, my techniques, and my lifestyle. From my experience with the Internet, it has functioned as a gateway to an otherwise unreachable audience and community. As a young adult, this is priceless. As a student, the Internet works as the ultimate research database. On the surface, this is because it grants access to an incredible vast well of information. But what makes it so innovative and useful is the fact that it's possible to investigate further than what is actually just available as a first look. That is to say that it's possible to discover a community around a certain topic and create a discussion with people. As a teenager, the internet works as a platform to reach others without whom it would not be able to explore. For me, this is extremely important because it gives me the ability to share my ideas, products, and opinions on a more level playing field. As an artist, the internet is the ultimate studio, audio, library, film database, and gallery. For me, it's possible to access content on a level with which the freedom and openness of access to the internet would never be conceivable. The internet also works in the production aspect of my art. I use it to find a community with whom my work has significance, and I can get specific critics or ideas to expand my work. Today, most of the internet users are consumers, with only a smaller amount using the internet in creative ways. If we do not make sure that the internet is kept open and accessible, and people can communicate and explore freely and effectively, we will lose one of the most influential and important tools currently in society. The internet has created something which has never been done before, and this is the creation of a way for people to share their ideas with the world in a quick, easy, and effective method. Never before has it been possible for a New York teenager to get critical comments on his work from people all over the country in a matter of minutes. To conclude, an open and non-discriminatory network is the very heart of the internet. It's why we have the internet community that we have today. If this is not preserved, the internet as we know it will disappear. The control over what consumers and creative individuals see and do online will pass from the consumer and creative user to the telephone and cable companies, removing its usefulness as a creative source.
Thank you, and tell him to say hello to Catherine Schneiderman, who's in his class. Catherine Schneiderman. Thank you, go ahead.
Thank you.
Whoever's next.
Thank you, Chairperson Brewer, for inviting me here today. My name is James Vasile, and I am here today on behalf of the Software Freedom Law Center, a pro bono nonprofit law firm exclusively devoted to representing people who make free and open source software. And that's software that is distributed with source code and permission to share, copy, modify that software and that code. Wikipedia, Firefox, and OpenOffice are notable examples of free software used by many New Yorkers every day. I'm here today for two purposes. One is to urge passage of the resolution, and two is to invite the Council to take a step further than 712A and require net neutrality and other consumer protection provisions be included in the franchise agreements that are currently being renegotiated with the broadband cable providers in New York City. So first, the resolution. I urge the Council to view the Internet Freedom Protection Act not as a limitation on the operations of broadband providers, but instead as what it really is, which is a consumer protection measure. It's a consumer protection measure designed to protect New Yorkers from anti-competitive and anti-consumer practices. Other people have come up here today to talk about what some of those practices might be, but I'd like to sort of talk about some concrete examples of what that scenario might look like, how that would actually play out, and what degradation of service means in actual practice in the future would be, New Yorkers faced with the frustrating, nonsensical choice between different providers providing different kinds of service and different types of content. So you might be faced with the choice of, Time Warner, who has an exclusive deal with, say, Facebook, or Verizon, which has an exclusive deal with MySpace. And choosing a service provider suddenly becomes also choosing what services you're going to be able to consume or how much you're going to pay for those services. You might be faced with a situation where Verizon degrades third-party voice over IP service, such as Skype, which tons of New Yorkers use to communicate with people all over the world. There's a lot of immigrants in New York who use Skype to talk to people back home. And they do it at a very low cost. Now, Skype competes pretty heavily with services like Verizon's Fios service, which includes a voice component. And without net neutrality, there's no reason why Verizon couldn't refuse to carry Skype traffic. There's no reason why Verizon couldn't degrade Skype traffic to the point where it's either less desirable or completely unusable, simply to prevent it from competing with Verizon's own services. So people have come up here today, representatives of the broadband ISPs, and said, we don't need to worry about these nightmare scenarios. We don't need to worry about these examples because, look, we've been here forever and we haven't done these kinds of things. And I'm here to tell you that that simply isn't true. in 2007, Comcast actively disrupted peer-to-peer file sharing network. Now, this is pretty commonly known, and there was a lot of outrage over it, but there's other more subtle instances of companies discriminating between different kinds of content and price discriminating between their customers. For example, with Cablevision service, you can't get outbound port 25, which is an email port that allows you to send email using certain kinds of services. You can't get inbound port 80, so you can't actually serve web pages over the web with a dynamic IP address if you're a Verizon customer. These sorts of provisions allow the broadband ISPs to price discriminate between customers and charge people who want to send email more money, people who want to serve web pages more money. And that's the kind of thing that is starting to happen more and more in the broadband market. And without net neutrality principles to prevent it from furthering, we're starting to take those steps down the slippery slope. So Resolution 712A is a move towards preventing us from going down the road to discriminatory services.
Start to wrap up. I know you want to talk about the franchises.
Sure. The franchise agreements that allow the various ISPs to serve broadband in New York lapsed in 2008. Those agreements are currently, they've been replaced by temporary agreements, and a long-term agreement is being renegotiated with Do It. Now, once that agreement is finalized with the city, the agreement comes to the City Council for approval, which means you guys have the power to decide to...
We don't see it.
You don't see it?
No, it's the borough president's representatives and the mayor's representatives, and maybe the public advocates. Yeah.
What I would urge is that the City Council take steps to make sure that the franchise agreements that are put in place include net neutrality guarantees and other consumer protection measures. Specifically, what I'd like to see is no limitations on connecting devices to the network, no limitations on static IP addresses, which they currently charge extra for, and
that needs to go before the Franchise Review Commission. Just so you know, I mean, I hear you. We could have some influence, but that's definitely the borough president has the rep, as well as all of the mayor's people. So just so you know, but you can continue. I'm just letting you know.
The last thing I would like to see is an end to limitations on sharing of bandwidth. Right now, people who buy bandwidth from their ISP are prohibited by their agreements with the ISP from sharing that bandwidth with other people, and that plays out in very concrete, real-world ways. I mean, landlords who want to plug in a wireless router to offer wireless internet to their tenants, to attract potential tenants, are currently prohibited from doing that. Nobody would countenance GM preventing people from lending their cars to other people. If you buy bandwidth from Time Warner, from cable, from Verizon, you should be able to do with it as you see fit, and that includes making the best possible use of it and sharing it with other people. So these are the kinds of consumer protection measures I would urge the council to support. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next, sir.
Thank you. My name is Jehangir Khattak. I am the communications manager at the New York Community Media Alliance. We are a non-for-profit organization that works for the promotion of ethnic and community media in New York and New Jersey. And today I'm here to support Resolution 712A because we feel that it's very important for the immigrant communities and the minority communities and the media that is representing those communities. NYCMA is very closely working with this media sector, which is pretty large in New York, to catch up with the emerging technology curve in the information sector. We have been organizing training sessions for more efficient use of web-based tools for reporting and encouraging publications of this media sector to better organize their web presence. We are also actively working to educate this media sector on the importance of net neutrality and other media policy issues by planning a forum in collaboration with People's Production House and other partners next year. We feel that there are social justice implications for these communities when they cannot connect the dots between their realities and access to the internet. For example, what does it mean if popular Skype is no longer available for low cost? And what does it mean for students who lack internet access? And what about their academic success? Also, what does it mean if news from the home country can only be accessed through the internet, and the internet is no longer available because it is no longer affordable to go online. These are not simple questions. These are the possibilities which will adversely impact the communities if net neutrality is lost. Net neutrality is the beginning of a larger conversation on the future of internet. The larger goal is affordable and open internet access for everyone and everywhere. Net neutrality recognizes that the internet is an essential infrastructure for economic, social, and political activity, and not just a private commodity to be controlled by corporations. That's why we do not just support the calls for new FCC regulations to break the monopoly of few companies, but also want more serious efforts to create greater understanding of the issue of net neutrality itself. We appreciate the City Council's resolution and strongly support it in the coming days as well. I thank you for your time.
Thank you all very much. I really appreciate it. And Mr. Peterson, we may be in touch for further information. So thank you so much. Just hours late. And my voice is going. Thank you very much. The next panel is Ben Kallos from Open Government Foundation, Colleen Gibney from ITAC, and Michel Biezunski from Infoloom. And there's one more panel after this, and then that's it.
If I
Ben always wants to start first.
Yeah, yes, please. Good morning to the greater technology community. Council members Fidler, Gerson, James, Liu, Sanders, and de Blasio, thank you for recognizing the importance of this issue and for sponsoring this resolution. Councilmember Brewer, Council and committee staff members, Kunal and Sam, thank you for your amazing work on this committee and commitment to continuing to address issues of importance to the technology community like network neutrality. You guys do a lot of hard work and you deserve recognition. My name is Benjamin Kallos. I'm here before you today as a co-founder of the Open Government Foundation, a New York State nonprofit which aims to bring greater transparency, accountability, and openness to government by making information available online for all to see. We're here today in response to the committee's call for testimony on two issues. First, will the network neutrality principles as articulated effectively obtain the goal of maintaining a free and open internet? Second, commenting on resolution number 712A of 2007, which asks the Federal Communications Commission and Congress to set firm network neutrality regulations. At this point, as the chair will appreciate, I will depart from our written testimony in order to avoid repeating points made by experts more knowledgeable than myself in favor of brevity. We seek to limit the scope of this conversation to that which has been set out by the FCC Notice of Proposed Rulemaking on October 22, 2009, which seeks only to discuss the addition of non-discrimination and transparency to its 2005 Internet Policy Statement, best summarized as any lawful content, any lawful application, any lawful device, any provider, in order to maintain the Internet as free and open. We also hope to suggest a more proactive approach by the City Council in tackling these issues. Regarding non-discrimination principle, it should be noted that the FCC states in their notice that cable and phone companies who provide broadband internet have a conflict of interest due to online competition, and the implementation of this principle is necessary to protect the interests of the end user and the public. While this principle would seek to eliminate the bulk of current traffic shaping by cable and phone companies, they're still empowered to engage in reasonable network management, which still might involve traffic shaping, and that's been alluded to in other testimonies. What drew particular attention from our organization is the sixth principle, which seeks to provide accountability for the broad, reasonable network management powers it's providing through transparency. This principle, in further detail, requires that the provider of broadband internet access must make available relevant information regarding network management practices to the consumer who purchases their service, to content application and service providers who must ensure their offerings function on the Internet, and to the Commission. What is groundbreaking about this principle is the opportunity to codify a concept of accountability to both the end user and the fellow community, and a broad departure from typical accountability that is only regulating agencies. As a nonprofit dedicated to transparency, accountability, and openness, we strongly support these two new principles, which together would scale back behavior that currently threatens a free and open Internet. We also believe the codification of principles would also help to begin an era of transparency, accountability, and imparting the concept of responsibility of a service provider to the consumer and the larger global community. With regard to a more proactive approach by the City Council, I will join my colleagues at the Free Software Foundation in calling on the City Council to work with the franchise process. While the FCRC and the mayor are heavily involved in it, it is authorized by authorizing resolutions of the City Council, the last of which was passed in 2008, provides for 5-year and 15 years and so on and so forth. But as of last year, Deputy Mayor Robert Lieber announced that they gave Verizon, a phone company, a cable television contract where they could offer cable television over their lines in exchange for adopting concepts introduced by Comptroller William Thompson for the Cable Consumers Bill of Rights for improved customer service protections, $10 million to NYC TV, and most importantly, bringing fiber optics to every street in New York City by 2014, with 50% of the city.
Ben, you got to wrap up, though. Come on.
No problem. We suggest that the Council take a look at this approach and use your implementing resolution to make that available. With regards to the resolution itself, you're empowered to speak on behalf of over 8 million residents, and we suggest that you speak directly to the Notice of Proposed Rulemaking. The resolution was drafted in 2007, and the Notice of Proposed Rulemaking has specific issues that actually has over 150. So if the resolution could be more geared to that, and the enacting clause strengthened to specifically mention the proposed principles, all 6 of them, oppose the implementation of managed or specialized services, and also include a requirement of communicating it to the FCC so that it becomes part of the public record, and to the congressional delegation and senators. Thank you again for considering network neutrality. We look forward to continue to work with New York City Council to make the world a little bit more transparent, bit by bit.
Thank you very much. Next.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair. My name is Colleen Gibney, and I am the Technology Practice Project Manager for ITAC, the New York City Industrial and Technology Assistance Corporation. ITAC is an economic development organization with 21 years of helping New York City's small tech firms and manufacturers. I'm going to abbreviate my remarks greatly. Just one point I wanted to bring to the forefront. We strongly support the committee's efforts to formalize strong network neutrality principles. And I want to speak for one stakeholder that hasn't been represented today, which is the advanced manufacturing sector. My key issue to bring to the Council's attention today is that net neutrality benefits New York's advanced manufacturing sector, both today and where we want them to go. ITAC has worked with advanced manufacturers for over 20 years in New York, and should a tiered system come into operation, these companies, who often operate under lean budgets, would find that they would need to pay more to maintain a basic web presence. A free and open internet will continue to allow these companies to build new web strategies, including manufacturing on demand, that will enable them to compete with larger players, both domestically and internationally. And some of this is a down-the-road problem, but we want to keep things available because we need these manufacturers to grow and to become advanced and use precision technologies and to become part of very sophisticated supply chains, including military supply chains, which are very demanding, and we're talking about a relatively high use of bandwidth. Those large telecommunications and cable providers who would seek to end net neutrality or would seek to prevent regulations to support the current model have spent a great deal of money to have their concerns and their wish to expand and protect their revenue models reflected in Washington. The small and to mid-sized technology and manufacturing companies with whom ITAC works do not have lobbying budgets. So we need to ensure that those companies get every chance to move forward on a fast and open highway. We don't want to lose our best job opportunities at the side of the road. Thank you.
My name is Michel Biezunski, and I'm working for Infoloom. I'm a member of the XML community, and I created the topic map standard, which is a way to improve the navigation within the internet. I'm not going to repeat things which have already been said, especially now. But what I want to say is that I am strongly in support of the net neutrality resolution. And the reason is to foster innovation, especially about something which I think is big and going to happen. And we should make sure that it can happen the way it can happen. It's about cloud computing, and it's more specifically about who owns the clouds. Cloud computing is a metaphor which is intended to evoke large number of computers cooperating together to do very complex tasks very rapidly. Google and Amazon rely on them. The thing is that they own their own cloud. And the technology allows people to actually form voluntary association among internet users and create disruptive applications which can have benefits for the society as a whole, and we don't know what they are now. And everybody would be basically able to share resources, including their internet, telecom resources. And I think that's big. It's coming, and we should let it come. For example, we can take the example of BitTorrent, which is a peer-to-peer protocol, and it allows many computers to voluntarily participate in the distribution of data to other computers. There's no centralized control over the distribution process. And it's a way to using the web to allow data to be distributed via resources that the telecom companies would like to restrict in a way that ordinary internet user would be unable to join forces. The problem with the telecom companies is that what they want is to be able to slow down traffic emanating from individuals and businesses that don't have business relationship with them, and they want to be in control. And then they want to charge whatever they want, and they want to basically be the master of the internet. And a company, I mean, a protocol like BitTorrent would die if there would be no network neutrality. And it's just one example among a lot of others. Many of them have been mentioned today. Another thing I want to say is about more like historical context, is that the ARPANET and TCP/IP, which are the ancestors of internet, were developed as a telecommunication network without any single point of failure, in which the information would be automatically rerouted among whatever pathways remain after a nuclear attack, because that was the point at that time. And the problem is that the control that the telecommunications want to put on the networks would prevent the strengths which makes the success of the internet to continue. Because we would be in a position where we would create another instance of an environment where there would be companies too big to fail, and which probably is not the best thing to do right now. Well, the other thing is, and I will finish with that, is that the society needs plenitude, and telecoms needs scarcity. Once upon a time, there was too much bandwidth, and when the fiber optic networks came online, during that period, prices fell, and the telecom business model was under heavy pressure. They found new ways to create artificial scarcity to support their old model to be the toll takers on the information highways. So basically what they want to do is they don't want to be a utility. And I think that's what exactly they should be. So I think that's basically what's at stake in this discussion, and that's why I support network neutrality.
Thank you very much for waiting, also, all three of you. How many companies do you think ITAC is working with that could be in this situation, or is it hard to guess?
Well, ITAC is one of 3 providers for the Small Business Innovation Research Program to help companies seek federal funding, and we're also engaged through that process with the Defense Department and NASA and these agencies that are SBIR participants. So currently, without having the database at hand, I would say that we're working with at least 25 companies that are at the significant level now where they're sophisticated enough that the supply chain would be extremely meaningful to them. There is a military headcraft manufacturer in the Bronx. There are lighting manufacturers and glass manufacturers and all different kinds of technologies. We're seeking to increase this number, and we're also seeking to encourage innovators to consider advanced manufacturing as a way to start businesses here, particularly in the areas of green technology as well, which sometimes has a manufacturing component. So while it doesn't seem like a huge number, we are talking about significant job opportunities because some of these companies have 50 to 100 employees in many cases, and these are long-term employees and they would like to grow rather than shrink. So they need to be part of large supply chains.
Thank you all very much. I really appreciate your waiting.